Hi, my name is Alex Williams, founder of the NewStack, and you are listening to the NewStack Analyst Podcast. Each week, we discuss our latest data research in a topic related to app development and back-end services. Now let's get to the show.
Hi, my name is Atul Jha. I'm Community Manager for the NewStack, and I'm here at DevOps Days India. And with me, I have developers contributor to this DevOps ecosystem with me. Guys, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, my name is Ragesh Krishna. I work with Shippable as a VP of Engineering here.
Hi, my name is Aditya. I'm lead of Systems Engineering at BrowserStack.
Hi, this is Nipendra Khare. I work for Red Hat as a performance engineer.
So my first question with all three of you, how many more DevOps tools do we need? Like how many more orchestration tools we need? Like Puppet, Chef, Ansible, SaltStack. Am I missing something more?
Well, I think so. As we go on increasing to new places, like we have started up with containers. Some new technology will come tomorrow, and as we go on with new technologies, there will always be room for improvement, and there will always be room for more choices. I think that's the best part of having multiple tools, because you get to choose the right thing depending upon your requirements and your expertise. So I think it's a healthy thing to have more tools. I mean, the market is getting hot. We have a lot of tools around, but I think that's a very favorable thing to have.
Yeah, I think we're really in a very interesting time right now, right? There's a lot of experimentation going on, a lot of ideas coming up, and there are a lot of options for people to choose from. I think, at some point there's going to be a dilemma of choice where there are going to be multiple right ways to do things, and people are going to start converging on what really works for them. I think at this point, the way I would look at it is, it's really the wild, wild west at this point. There's no clear leader, there's no clear, winner in this space yet. But as we move ahead, I think that's going to start happening. I think the way we need to look at it is, how do we make people successful, right? It's not going to be about whether they prefer a particular technology or not, but about, is this the tool that lets me get the most done with the least amount of effort? And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the long run.
Yeah, so also all these tools are definitely being worked actively with the developers and end users also. So things are really evolving pretty well there. And I think the winner would be the tool which can basically get integrated with all those things, technologies just coming around, Kubernetes, containers, and so basically the tool which kind of integrates and makes the job easy for the end guy, that's going to be the winner. But I think currently everybody is kind of experimenting and evolving, so that's good.
So how do you guys see the emergence of container technology for overall development ecosystem?
So from what I see is that it has changed the way we look at infrastructure drastically. Like right now, what Docker does, or what any container system like Rocket would help us do, is change the way we deploy the code dramatically. We are moving out of an era where we had huge overheads of running probably virtual machines or running under capacity hardware. We are trying to pack more in less, which I think that's going to lead in a very healthy state in terms of both system utilization as well as emergence of new tools and new ecosystem around deployment technologies and say fault tolerance and all those things. So yeah, I think that's a positive thing as well.
I think there's no real doubt that containerization is the future of deployment. I think containerization as a technology has existed forever, right? What Docker really did for us is it got everybody to agree on one platform. And I think that's what really moved the whole thing forward. Because if you look at it 3 years ago, Linux containers were still available, right? But since there was no standard, there was no tooling around it, people were reluctant to adopt it because it was confusing. And Docker came around 3 years ago and said, here's a simple CLI tool you can use, and you have containers. You don't need to think about apps in terms of virtual machines and deployments anymore. And they simplified the whole thing. and they got everybody to agree on it. And I think that's what's really driving it forward.
Yeah, so definitely containers are changing the way we deploy, we ship. I think the only piece remaining there is the mindset of the end developer and the companies which kind of typically deploy your apps on VMs or on a physical machine. The mindset need to change there. It's changing at a very good pace. So I believe as more companies would understand how containers are going to make their life easy, the adoption would come more frequently, or kind of we can see more generalization or kind of de facto standard to deploy any app through containers. So that's something we all need to work through, and we should see.
So Nripendra, you are one of the organizers of Docker meetup in Bangalore, and apart from that you have also written a book on Docker. So what do you see as a trend here in Bangalore, like the meetups that you've been organizing? Who are the audience attending those meetups? What do they talk about?
Yeah, so in Bangalore we definitely see participants from different companies, be it service, be it product. We have seen covered most of the enterprise companies also. They have all participated in the meetups. But I think the current trend what I see is most of them are using right now. So they're trying to experiment. They're trying to see how it can fit in their existing environment, or if not, what things they have to change. So we see definitely a good user base here, but we don't see a good developer base for the Docker per se. So that's what something we are working towards, that we can go and contribute both back to the Docker code or any other container technology. So that's something we are trying to achieve from Bangalore or India per se.
And Aditya, you've been a long-time Fedora developer yourself, and you're heavily involved with the cloud computing technology, or I guess you're also upstream maintainer
of certain Docker packages. Yes.
Right.
So I maintain CentOS 6's Docker package, as well as a bunch of Fedora Docker files.
So how do you see the overall trend? Like, are you getting contribution from Indian students, or what is it like?
At this point of time, from Indian students' perspective, I don't think I'm getting a lot of student contributors, not only from India but from many other countries as well, because as a student, containers is not what usually students play with. Students don't play with virtualization technologies, with deployments. Usually student interest lies in development, building the cool new app, or something on that area.
So everything related to mobile technology.
Yeah, mobile technology or even web technologies. But deployments are not where students are really interested on. But from other areas, from non-students areas, we are seeing good amount of contribution from abroad as well as from India. There are Indian contributors contributing to Fedora Cloud, contributing to Kubernetes, or contributing to the Fedora Docker files. So there are contributors. I wouldn't want the number to increase dramatically, and I think that will happen once we build a very healthy ecosystem, which we are working towards. So yeah, it might take some time, but we'll be there.
And yeah, I think that the events like DevOps India and other events, kind of these help to kind of take the technology out to the different companies and different people here. So I think that's kind of plays a lot of good role, like meetups and these events definitely kind of come and play a very good role to educate and then contribute back to the projects.
So you've been, your company CPeople has been like one of the early adopters of Docker. Why did you guys go with Docker when already you had Alexi pretty old and solid in the market? I'm just asking.
I think so. We actually did start experimenting with Alexi very early in the company. We did do a prototype where we built a whole build system on top of Alexi containers at the base level. But that was around the time when we met with the Docker team. At that point, Docker really wasn't an open source project yet, and our CEO met with their team, and they came to us and said, you guys are doing this. We have this thing internally that we're planning to open source, and it looks like we're both trying to do the same thing. So why not try this out? And that's when we really took a look at it, and it was fantastic at that point. The way it simplified the things we had to do what we wanted to get done was so much easier with Docker that it was a no-brainer. And once we saw that happening, we adopted it internally, and it changed so many things for us that we almost immediately realized that this was going to change how deployments happen everywhere. And we decided to bet on it big 3 years ago. And I think at that point, we were probably one of the first 5 or 6 companies that decided to go to production with Docker. And I guess, the rest you can say is history. You know how everything has spiraled up since then. And it's phenomenal. Specifically with the Bangalore crowd, since you asked earlier, I was with Nipendra when we started the first Bangalore Docker meetup, and I think in the first meetup we probably had a dozen people show up, and the latest ones, I can see a lot of interest happening in the discussion groups. I think probably close to 100 people show up now for meetups. And today at DevOps Day we're doing a whole container track, and there's a lot of interest. There are hundreds of people here today very interested in what's going on in this space. So I'm very excited at where we are. I think there's still a lot more we can do. There hasn't been a lot of adoption yet. It's still a lot of interest that people are showing, but I think that's going to change very soon. It's going to be like a tidal wave. Once it begins, it's just going to keep happening.
So what are some of the pain points you guys still see as a container technology?
Yeah, so one thing definitely I see a networking part, multi-host networking, and the performance when we have overlay networks come in play. So that's something is the area which everybody is working towards. Docker is coming with Docker networking plugins through which you can do default multi-host networking. Other solutions like Flannel or Weave, so they also have a different approach. Not different, so we can call it a different approach, but I think so that's the area where everybody is kind of trying to solve the problem of networking. So once those problems become solvable, networking and other than the storage. So when you again have a storage, when you container move from one machine to another machine, the storage need to get attached to the same container, or basically the same kind of container in which you're going to run the app. So those are, I think, 2 major areas, and I think problem are getting solved there. So there's something, a pain points right now, but I think it's working towards.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with Nipendra here. I mean, networking on top of Docker has been a huge pain point for us, especially at the scale at which we're trying to do it at Chippable. We've tried a bunch of different approaches. Kubernetes helps us to some extent, and Red Hat is doing a lot of interesting stuff with OpenShift also on top of this. And I think we're heading in the right direction. It's not a solved problem yet, but we're getting there.
I think one of the problem which I think is going to be a difficult one to solve would be changing the mindset of people, because we are dramatically changing their deployment strategies, their overall workflow. So eventually we need to explain people, the developers, the release engineers, that what changes we are trying to bring in are not going to hamper their productivity. There are long-term benefits of moving in this direction. So awareness and the acceptance of a different mindset, of a different deployment strategy, I think that's also one of the major blockers in this entire environment.
Yeah, I think people with legacy code don't understand how they're going to make this shift, because it's a big leap for them to make. And while their fear is understandable, I think at some point of time we have to take a call and move ahead with things like this, that because this and especially for legacy code where understanding what happened 5 years ago is a very difficult thing, rather than shipping it out to all hundreds of your nodes via just a Docker pull. I think it's amazing, and we need to explain this. We need to create more awareness around this simple deployment strategy. Yeah, I think one of the challenges is going to be, how do you really migrate? I mean, people will not be open to just shifting over cold turkey.
Right.
And migration is not kind of very easy step, because there are a lot of dependencies, a lot of hard coded stuff, or a lot of, so those things are need to be kind of worked out And I think there are companies which are kind of trying to solve that problem as well, that somebody can just give you let's say a definition or something that they will automatically convert to Docker files or the Docker Compose or any other like Kubernetes JSON file and all those things. So people are working towards the solution also. So as those solution becomes mature, where you can directly just say, I have this app, this is how kind of structured, convert it to a given format which I want to deploy on Kubernetes or default Docker clustering platform. So that's all in work in progress, and things are looking good there as well.
So over our conversation, I've been hearing Kubernetes again and again. What Kubernetes started with Google as a project, right? And right now Red Hat is also one of the contributor to it. So what problem are we solving with Kubernetes? Like why at first place Kubernetes getting so much of prominence?
So there are a few things. First of all, scheduling and the clustering. So initially when Docker started, there was nothing called multi-host containers. So basically you run one container on one host, one container on another host, and you try to connect them together. There were ambassador containers, but those are not like a full, production ready solutions. So that's why I think with the experience what Google has running containers for many years, they kind of come and pitched in Kubernetes, where basically we can do scheduling and clustering at a large scale with containers. That kind of made the biggest pitch actually for the Kubernetes to come and play that multi-host networking, not networking also, management, clustering, and scheduling. So that's something which Kubernetes is trying to solve, and I think they are doing pretty good there. And now we also have default Docker, multi-host networking, clustering like Swarm. So that's also coming up very quickly. And we have Mesos, which is also kind of coming in the same kind of trying to solve the same problem, something like that.
And what is OpenShift doing with, I would say, like Docker as well as with Kubernetes?
Yeah, so when you talk about Kubernetes understand in terms of pods or the containers. As of now, it doesn't have not understanding, but the kind of concept of applications. So what OpenShift brings on top of Kubernetes is the concept of application. So basically, you can say that I want to deploy application. So you kind of write a JSON file or YAML file saying that I want this app to be consisting of these containers, and this is how I'm going to deploy. So those kind of additional feature what OpenShift brings on top of Kubernetes, and that's the value add from the OpenShift part. And for the end user, he doesn't have to worry about what lies beneath. You just need to worry about his application, his or her application. So basically, if you have a Git repo somewhere and you also want to deploy an OpenShift, so basically with just few steps you can deploy from your GitHub to OpenShift. And with the platform like Shippable, you can do a CI in between. So basically, you write your code on GitHub, test it on Shippable environment, and write the hooks to deploy it on OpenShift or any other platform Shippable. So there's something kind of complete CI/CD what you can do, and ease of management of our app what OpenShift brings in.
Aditya, at BrowserStack, how much time container has saved for you guys?
Right. So we are not using containers a lot. But from standpoint of purely infrastructural applications, I'd say the deployments have increased. The number of frequency of deployment increases because now we can deploy more faster and in a comfortable manner. But as we have already talked about that, there are several problems around networking, around mindset of the people, and around a lot of other things that we are having. So we are not into containers 100% as Shippable might be, but we have started the process, and we have quite a few applications right now, only internal applications which are running on containers. So I don't have exact figure that how much time it has spent, but I can clearly tell you that what it has done for us is that we can do deployments in a reproducible manner, and we have that sort of confidence that if things go wrong, there are always ways to revert it to a good state. So we have found the Git for deployments, sort of Git for deployment, which builds tremendous confidence in the people who know the technology, and I think that's a big thing.
At Seepable, how many Docker instances you guys spawn in an hour? I would say fairly large.
I think we're doing somewhere close to 250,000 to 500,000 containers. So, I mean, like I said, Docker completely changed the game for us. And in terms of infrastructure costs, we've been able to go down from our AWS build by around 70 to 72%. Right? That in itself is just one spectacular saving. In terms of our ability to respond to issues in production, we can now we're deploying every day at like 20 to 40 times per day. Right? This is a distributed team in 3 different time zones, and everybody gets to push to production all the time. Our time to respond to issues in production has gone down to 2 hours at the most. From the time we see a bug, where we go through the process of developing the bug fix, getting it tested, goes into production, the entire deployment is happening within a couple of hours. So Docker has completely changed the dynamic for us. Right? It's allowing us to execute on our plans at a much faster pace, and I think that's what's going to be. That's what success is going to be about every day.
What do you guys think of Puppet and Chef after the emergence of Docker and the newer technologies like Ansible, SaltStack?
Yep. So I think they are not going to go out; they're going to stay. As far as I know, Ansible and a bunch of other technologies are integrating with Docker. And another thing which I want to point out at this point of time is that somebody needs to manage the host as well, right? Although we are getting into containers, there's still a minimum amount of configuration that would be required on the host. And while the relevance might reduce a bit, it's not going to go away. So yeah, I think it will be a coexistence sort of environment where people would say. And also at this point, I want to point out one thing, that Docker is not a silver bullet solution. There would be cases where you would need to run machines with, say, where you are sure that you don't need to deploy out, for example, databases. I don't need to update my MySQL every day. I don't need to update my MySQL for months actually. So for those scenarios, I would probably not use Docker. I would probably go with a virtual machine, or if my data set is large enough, I would probably go with physical machines. So in those cases, I think automation tools like Ansible or Puppet or Chef or whatever, they're going to stay. The dynamics might change how we interact and how we work with them.
So just one quick correction. I think I misinterpreted your question last time about the number of containers. The number I quoted was for actually around 2 weeks time frame, not per hour. So I just wanted to correct that.
Okay. What do you think, Nirpendra, about Puppet, Chef and other existing DevOps tools?
I think they are all going to stay. That's what I mentioned earlier also. And whichever kind of integrates well with containers is going to be more adaptable in this particular scenario. So I think all of them are going to stay, and it's going to be good to have a choice.
Yeah, like I said, right, today there's no clear winner in the tool space. Right? People are still experimenting with a lot of things. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Docker is coming up with ways of their own to do clustering, management, deployments. Google is trying to do the same thing with Kubernetes. OpenShift is adding value on top of that. So I think, what we're seeing is at the base level, Docker really gives you value, right? You can increase density. Kubernetes is giving you value at an ops level where you can stop worrying about how your cluster is managed, how it's scheduled. And OpenShift is giving you value from a developer perspective, where you only think about applications and what really constitutes that. And at that level, you're no longer thinking about where is this running, what is the machine that it's going to, what is running on each machine. I'm just saying, this is my application, this is what I want to run, make it happen. And I think that's a spectacular shift in the way we look at things.
So how has this event been so far for you guys? DevOps Days India?
It's been really good talks here, and meeting with like-minded people, discussing more technology here has been really good experience.
I think I'm very excited. I mean, the amount of interest that people have in all of this stuff that's coming up, the conversations that we're having, people have very good questions. They're all worried about how is this going to play out. Like I said, there's a lot of interest. There hasn't been a lot of adoption in this space yet in terms of containerization, but I think people are moving there, and it's going to be very interesting to see how things move forward.
Yeah, for me, the best part is the conversations that we have, like with everyone else, and deciding that probably how we can make it even bigger, how we can make adoption better, how we can make sure that when we adopt a new technologies like Kubernetes or OpenShift or Shippable or whatever, the migration, like we talked about, should be smooth, and how we interact with people. When we talk to them, that's when we know what are their pain points and what we can do ahead of us to reduce those pain points and make sure that they get a better experience, and we also get to know what exactly the ground reality is. Yeah. So events like this helps a lot.
Yeah, the interest seems to be really good. So it's a Sunday afternoon here, and we have a full packed house. So that definitely shows there is a really good interest in the container technology, and I think DevOps India team has done a great job to organize this event.
Thank you guys. Thanks for your precious time. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the talks. That's it from my side, Atul Jha, out here in Bangalore from DevOps Days India.
Thanks, Atul.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's show. Thank you very much for joining us. Audio editing and sound design for the NewsStack Analyst podcast is provided by Broken Hours. You can find them at brokenhours.com. Thanks again, and hope to see you back at the show. Bye-bye.